Blue and
This
red
is
lights slashed across the
acceptable.
quiet suburban
You need
street
to do
like
your
warning
job
beacons from another
naturally.
world. Tasha Bennett's hands tightened on the steering wheel as she pulled her sedan to a steady stop. She had done nothing wrong. Not a rolling stop, not a broken signal, no speeding, but the cruiser behind her clearly decided she had. She looked up into her rearview mirror and saw the silhouette of the man climbing out of his patrol car. Broad shoulders, heavy boots, and a swagger that telegraphed arrogance long before his face came into view. Officer Raymond Caldwell, known in this district for one thing: targeting drivers who looked, acted, or sounded like they didn't belong. Tonight, Tasha Bennett apparently didn't belong. He approached slowly, tapping his flashlight against her rear window before shining it directly into her eyes. "License and registration," he said, voice flat and already hostile. Tasha remained calm, too calm for Caldwell's liking. "What's the reason for the stop, officer?" she asked calmly, knowing her rights. He smirked. "You were swerving. Probably a DUI. Step out of the vehicle." Tasha blinked. Swerving. On an empty, well-lit road. He wasn't even pretending to hide it. She stepped out, keeping her hands visible. Caldwell circled her like a predator sizing up prey. "You nervous?" he asked. "No." Tasha stared straight ahead. "You should be." He bent beside her driver's side door, then suddenly straightened, holding a small plastic baggie of white powder. Well, he said loudly, so body cam audio could capture it. "Looks like we've got possession with intent." Tasha's heart slammed into her ribs. He planted it, right there, right in front of her. Caldwell grinned, satisfied with his work. "Hands behind your back." He expected fear. He expected begging. He expected her to fold like every other person he'd railroaded. Instead, Tasha took a slow breath. "Officer Caldwell," she said firmly, "you might want to check the back of my jacket first." Confused, he grabbed the fabric and twisted it, revealing the badge clipped beneath. "Not state, not county, not city, FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation." Caldwell froze. His skin turned the color of stale paper. And on Tasha's face, a controlled but unmistakable smile finally appeared. He hadn't pulled over a victim tonight. He'd trapped himself. Officer Caldwell stumbled backward like someone had ripped the ground from under him. For a long second, he couldn't speak. Not a word, just breathed sharply while the badge in his hands gleamed beneath the street lamp. Tasha didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She didn't need to. "I'd like your supervisor on scene," she said, clearly and formally, the way she'd practiced 1,000 times in undercover training. Now, Caldwell's eyes darted everywhere: his cruiser, his body cam, the planted drugs still dangling from his grip. He slowly realized every mistake he'd made had been recorded. "Listen," he muttered, we can talk this out." Tasha shook her head. "No, we can't." Her cell phone was already dialing. "This is Special Agent Bennett," she announced when the dispatcher answered. "I need ranking personnel at my location. Officer misconduct. Possible corruption." Caldwell snatched his body cam off his vest in a panic and tried turning it off, but it was too late. The moment he ripped it off, it pinged a disconnect alert, flagging command that something unusual was happening. Tasha crossed her arms and simply waited. Minutes later, a second cruiser rolled in, followed by a third. Sergeant Morales stepped out, stern, gray-haired, and unimpressed with every officer on his payroll. "What's going on?" he demanded. Tasha recited the events calmly, professionally, without an ounce of anger. Morales turned toward Caldwell, jaw tightening. "Is that true?" Caldwell swallowed hard. "Misunderstanding," he tried. Morales didn't buy it. "Explain the cocaine baggie." And for the first time, panic overtook Caldwell completely. He couldn't lie. Not with Bennett standing right there. Not with recorded evidence. Morales ordered him to place his hands behind his back. Caldwell hesitated, then complied. The cuffs clicked shut. But this story wasn't over. Not even close. Because when Morales called it in, a detail slipped out, a detail that made Tasha's blood run cold. Caldwell wasn't working alone. Patrol cars lined the block now, their lights flickering like a carnival of guilt. Neighbors peeked out from blinds, watching history unfold, an officer arrested by his own department, with an FBI agent as witness. But the moment Morales read Caldwell's personnel file on his in-car computer, the whole night twisted into something darker. Caldwell had 17 prior civilian complaints. All dismissed. All insufficient evidence. Tasha felt her jaw clench. No one was that unlucky, and no street was that full of liars. Morales muttered, how did he stay on the force? Tasha already knew the answer. Either incompetence or protection. Inside Caldwell's cruiser, Morales opened a locked side compartment. A stash bag. Multiple bags, actually. Ready-made. Evidence. It wasn't sloppy. It was organized. Professional. Intentional. Tasha's pulse kicked harder. She wasn't dealing with a lone officer. She was staring at infrastructure. And Caldwell finally snapped. You think I'm the only one doing it? He yelled as they pushed him into the back of the cruiser. You think they're gonna let you walk away after this? They, Morales repeated. But Tasha already felt the invisible walls closing. There was a ring. There had to be. Someone high enough to bury files, protect bad arrests, erase patterns. Tasha lifted her phone again, this time using a secure FBI channel. Requesting federal response, she said. Possible systemic corruption. Morales stiffened. You're escalating to the bureau. I already did, she replied. Caldwell laughed bitterly from the backseat. You just signed your own death warrant. And at that moment, quietly, unnoticed by most, one cruiser down the line shut off its lights and pulled away. Too quickly, too quietly, Morales cursed. That was Officer Jenkins. Part of your unit? Tasha asked. Yes. And he didn't get clearance to leave. It wasn't fear that rushed through her veins now. It was focus. Pure training. Sergeant, she said, we need to move now. Before he warns whoever's running this. Because if Jenkins was fleeing, someone bigger was waiting in the shadows, and Tasha had crashed headfirst into a nest of predators who thought the badge was their shield. They were about to learn what happened when they framed the wrong woman. The moment Officer Jenkins slipped away, the street transformed from a crime scene into a battlefield. Morales slammed his cruiser door in frustration and started barking orders at the remaining officers, but Tasha was already 2 steps ahead, pulling a GPS ping request through her bureau system. She wasn't about to let the getaway slip into darkness, not when it could expose the entire operation. Jenkins wasn't speeding away like someone afraid. He was gliding, a smooth, calculated exit down a side road, careful enough to suggest confidence. Confidence meant familiarity. This wasn't the first time he'd run. Within seconds, Tasha's phone vibrated with a live trace. Got him, she muttered. Morales leaned over and frowned at the map. That's heading toward the precinct. Which meant one thing. Jenkins wasn't hiding. He was returning to safety. Or worse, warning, someone inside. Tasha climbed into her car, adrenaline pushing her heartbeat into her ears. Morales jumped into his cruiser and flipped on sirens, ordering 2 others to follow. The street exploded into motion, 3 sets of patrol lights slicing through the night as they raced toward a truth someone desperately wanted to bury. Jenkins arrived minutes ahead of them. When Tasha pulled into the lot, she spotted him sprinting up the back steps of the station, fumbling with keys, panic scrambling his movements. He wasn't slick anymore. He was scared. Tasha got out and called, Jenkins. He didn't stop, didn't even look back. Instead, he slammed through the service door and disappeared inside. Morales swore, he's heading straight for the watch commander. Tasha's pulse sharpened. Or the evidence locker. Inside, the precinct was humming with late-night clerks, dispatchers, and a handful of officers switching shifts. They froze as Bennett and 3 uniformed men stormed in. Morales yelled, officer fleeing from a crime scene, lock down exits. Doors clanked. Radios lit up. Confusion spread like wildfire. Then a crash echoed down the hallway, a metal cabinet tipping over, papers scattering. They sprinted toward the sound and found Jenkins rifling through files, sweat pouring down his forehead. He had a folder in his hand. Stamped, Internal Investigations. Tasha recognized the names on the spine, citizens who had filed complaints. Every one, unsubstantiated. Every one, she realized, likely destroyed by men like him. Don't take another step, she ordered. Jenkins raised his hand slowly, but his eyes flicked toward the chief's office. Too late, he whispered. And in that moment, the office door swung open, revealing a man Tasha instantly recognized from her FBI briefings. Someone she never expected to see. Someone who should have been protecting citizens, not hunting them. Chief Harold Denton stepped into the hallway like a shadow materializing from the wall. Square jaw, graying hair, stern eyes, he looked every inch the decorated lawman his framed commendations claimed him to be. But Tasha felt something colder emanating from him, a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning humming overhead. "Agent Bennett," Denton said smoothly, as if he'd been expecting her this whole time. "Unusual place to see you. And unusual hour." Morales stiffened. "You know her, Chief." Denton gave a small, humorless smile. "I make it my business to know who the federal government assigns to cases touching my jurisdiction." But that was a lie. Tasha could spot one a mile away. Jenkins stood frozen, folder halfway lifted like a guilty child caught with his hand in a cookie jar. Denton didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, his gaze locked onto Tasha with a calculating steadiness, one that spoke of secrets, power, and a man accustomed to being untouchable. "What are you doing in my station?" Denton asked, voice lower now, more dangerous. Tasha held the badge steady at her chest. "Investigating corruption. Starting with Officer Caldwell." Denton didn't blink. "Caldwell's an idiot," he said. "But idiots make mistakes. They don't build systems." There it was, a slip. He knew exactly what Caldwell had been doing. He just underestimated who Caldwell pulled over tonight. Morales pushed forward. "Chief." Officer Jenkins fled a stop and was caught trying to destroy internal files. Denton finally turned his eyes toward Jenkins. The officer wilted instantly. "That true?" Denton asked, tone deceptively calm. Jenkins nodded, trembling. Denton sighed. "Heavy, theatrical. Then you leave me no choice." Before Morales or Tasha could react, Denton's hand shot to his hip. Not for his cuffs, for his gun. Tasha lunged just as Morales yelled, "Gun!" The hallway erupted into chaos. Denton fired a single shot, shattering a glass panel behind Jenkins, spraying papers like confetti. Officers dove for cover. Jenkins dropped flat, screaming. Tasha slammed Denton against the wall, wrestling his weapon downward. "For a man in charge," she hissed, "you're sloppy under pressure." Denton recovered faster than she expected, twisting, trying to shove her off. Morales leapt in and grabbed the chief's arm, pinning it. The gun clattered to the floor. Officers swarmed, piling their weight until Denton stopped struggling. Even then, he smiled. A slow, venomous, chilling smile. "You think arresting me fixes this?" he rasped. "You're swimming in the shallow end, Agent. You haven't met the sharks yet." Tasha's blood iced. If he wasn't the top, someone worse waited above him. Chief Denton stood cuffed with his back pressed against the wall, the smug expression refusing to leave his face. Even pinned beneath the weight of 3 officers, he radiated the confidence of a man who believed he would walk out free, and see every person in this hallway fired, framed, or buried under paper. Tasha knew that look too well. She had seen it on cartel lieutenants, corrupt politicians, and mob lawyers. That look came from power. Not personal power, but borrowed authority from someone higher up the ladder. Morales finally found his words. "Chief Denton, you're under arrest. For obstruction, conspiracy, evidence tampering," Tasha added. "And attempted murder." Jenkins croaked from the floor, still shaken. Denton shrugged as if the list bored him. "Charge me with whatever makes you feel useful tonight. We both know those won't stick." Morales turned red. "We have you on body cameras, multiple." Denton raised a brow. "And who controls the data servers those cameras upload to?" Silence fell like a guillotine. Tasha felt her stomach tighten. He was right. The department's command center managed their own storage, meaning Denton could wipe footage with a phone call, or someone loyal could do it for him the moment word spread. "We need federal custody now," she snapped. Morales nodded and signaled an officer. "Transport vehicle, FBI intake." But Denton wasn't done. "You really don't get it," he rasped as they lifted him from the floor. "Caldwell was a pawn. Jenkins is a runner. I'm a public shield. The people who own this operation, they don't wear badges at all." Tasha stepped closer, eyes locked on his. "Then I'll find them." Denton chuckled. "Oh, they'll find you first." As Denton was dragged out, Tasha's phone buzzed, an encrypted alert from FBI command. She scanned it, and the blood drained from her face. Officer involved alert. FBI assets compromised. Do not return to safe house. Suspected leak inside local agencies. Proceed to secondary extraction point. Morales read her expression. What now? Tasha forced herself to breathe. Denton wasn't bluffing. Someone tipped them off. She'd kicked a hornet's nest, and the swarm was already moving. Then the station lights flickered once, twice, and went dark. Emergency power kicked in, but the message was loud and clear. Someone was inside the network. Someone powerful enough to shut down a precinct. Jenkins whispered, voice trembling, "We're sitting ducks." Tasha raised her head, jaw set. No, they are. Because she wasn't running. Not now. Not after seeing just how deep the rot went. Flashlights snapped on as backup generators hummed weakly to life. Yellow emergency lighting washed the hull in shadows, transforming the precinct into something out of a thriller. Silent, tense, unpredictable. Radios crackled with half-broken transmissions. Phones went dead. Access doors locked automatically. The building had effectively turned into a sealed box. Tasha instantly switched gears from investigator to survivalist. Everyone away from windows and exterior walls, she ordered. Not a single officer argued now. Caldwell was gone. Denton was cuffed. Jenkins was rattled. Morales, wide-eyed, seemed suspended between fear and fury. A dispatch officer hurried over, face pale. All systems are down except emergency power. Cameras too. Tasha's stomach coiled again. That wasn't an outage. Someone shut us off. Morales exhaled sharply. Who the hell has that kind of access? Before Tasha could answer, the station's front security door clanged, hard. Once, twice, 3 metallic strikes. Jenkins backed up like he'd been hit. They're here, he whispered. Tasha pulled her sidearm but kept it low. Everyone stay calm. We don't know what that is yet. Another smash, this time followed by a grinding sound, metal against metal. Someone was trying to pry the door open. Morales grabbed the intercom mic, only to realize it was dead. Tasha stepped toward the entryway with deliberate slowness, positioning herself near a pillar for cover. She didn't need to see yet. The sound told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't a mob. This was professional, coordinated, silent except for the tools in their hands. Someone Denton worked for had mobilized the moment he was arrested. Morales hissed, "We need to barricade." Tasha shook her head. "If they get in here, we're trapped. We need a way out, not more walls." Her phone buzzed again, one of the few devices still trying to pull signal. A short, scrambled text appeared. Back exit, parking deck, do not use front. Tasha made a decision fast enough her brain barely finished the thought. She turned to Morales. "We move everyone out now, through the garage. Quiet, fast, no lights." Morales nodded, trusting her more than his chief, his officers, or even the building around him. But the exit wouldn't be empty. Everyone in that precinct understood that. Whatever was on the front door was likely circling around the building. They rushed through hallways lit only by dim yellow strips. Jenkins limped behind. Morales took rear guard. The hum of the emergency power felt louder than footsteps. When they reached the garage door, Tasha held up a hand. She listened. Silence. Too much silence. She swallowed. "On 3, she whispered. 1, 2. The metal shutter screeched upward, revealing figures waiting in the dark. Not cops. Not gang members. Men in tactical black, with no insignia at all. The night air flooded into the garage, cold, sharp, unsettling. But colder still were the figures standing just beyond the rising shutter. They weren't dressed like police. No badges. No nameplates. No uniforms that belonged to any branch Tasha recognized. Just matte black tactical gear, faces hidden behind low-slung visors, boots planted like they'd been stationed there all their lives instead of minutes. Whoever sent them hadn't wasted time. Morales instinctively raised his weapon. "Identify yourselves," he barked. The men didn't answer. The first one stepped forward silently, lifting a compact rifle, not to fire, but to signal. 2 fingers up, a sweep to the right. The group began to fan outward, flanking the garage entrance with eerie precision. "These aren't street criminals," Tasha whispered. "They're trained," Jenkins croaked behind her. Tasha snapped her finger downward. Everyone ducked just as the rifles clicked from safety to ready. No one fired. Yet, one of the masked men pulled out a device, pointed it toward the building, something box-shaped with a blinking light. Jammer. Signal suppression. They were isolating the precinct. Tasha understood the play. No communication. No witnesses. No survivors. She forced her breathing calm and leaned toward Morales. When I say go, you run for those cars and start them. Keys should still be inside. Morales blinked. And you, I'll delay them. It wasn't bravado. It was tactical triage. He nodded once. Tasha stepped out from behind the cover and held up her badge, not meekly, but like a challenge. Federal agent, she shouted. Drop your weapons. The lead figure tilted his head slightly, almost curious. Then gave a single hand signal. 2 men peeled forward, advancing. Tasha fired a warning round into the pavement inches from their boots. Concrete splintered. That got reaction. Small, but real. The men paused. Not stopped. Not scared. Just recalculating. Tasha didn't wait for their math to finish. Go, she yelled. Morales sprinted first, sliding across the hood of a squad SUV. Jenkins hobbled behind him, gritting through pain. The handful of remaining officers scattered, diving into vehicles like soldiers scrambling to lifeboats. Engines roared to life. The black-clad squad reacted instantly. Rifles snapped up. Bullets shredded the air. Concrete puffed. Windshields cracked. Tires spat chunks of rubber. The garage transformed into a battlefield, echoing with screams and ricochets. Tasha slid under a parked car, firing back in controlled bursts, not to hit, but to herd. Move them left. By seconds. Seconds meant lives. A squad car screeched toward the ramp, 2 others tailing close behind. They might actually make it. Then the garage door slammed shut behind them, from the inside. Someone was still in the building. Still in the system. Still watching. And they weren't done. The slam of the garage door echoed like a coffin lid sealing. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then motion exploded. One squad car fishtail-ed, tires screaming as the driver yanked the wheel. It barely missed a concrete pillar and straightened toward the exit ramp, while the other 2 tailed behind, engines roaring like beasts desperate to escape a cage. But the black-clad attackers adjusted instantly. They swept forward, moving with the chilling efficiency of men who had rehearsed this exact scenario. Their rifles flared with muzzle flash, sparks dancing like fireflies as rounds ripped through chrome and steel. A rear tire blew out on one cruiser, the car skidding sideways before slamming into a patrol truck with a bone-rattling crunch. Morales cursed, swerved, and rammed the first vehicle forward, shoving it just enough to free the opening. Keep going, Tasha yelled, voice raw. She rolled from under the car that had sheltered her, firing short bursts to draw the attacker's attention away from her fleeing allies. One of the masked men snapped toward her, rifle tracking. She dove behind a pillar, bullets chewing concrete where her body had been a second earlier. The wounded cruiser limped up the ramp, metal screeching, sparks trailing, then burst into the open as it cleared the exit. Morales and 2 others followed hard behind, engines howling into the night. Outside was freedom. Inside, hell was tightening its fist. A masked figure sprinted toward the control panel by the exit, likely trying to trap the remaining vehicles. Tasha broke cover and charged, feet pounding the cement. She crashed into him just as he reached the button. They toppled to the floor, grappling in a swirl of limbs and adrenaline. He swung an elbow. Hard, and stars burst behind her eyes. But Tasha clamped down on his wrist, wrenching the weapon free and sending it skittering across the floor. He rolled, grabbed a knife from his vest, and lunged. Tasha twisted aside. The blade carved air instead of flesh. She slammed her knee into his throat, controlled, precise, enough to stun but not kill. He collapsed, visor cracking against the concrete. 2 more attackers turned toward her, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she lunged at the control switch and slapped the manual override. The garage door roared upward again. Sunlight didn't pour in. Night still ruled, but escape did. Tasha yelled, "Move," to the last cruiser. The driver hit the gas. Tires shrieked. The car shot forward, clipped her shoulder, and blasted through the half-open door, tearing metal with a shower of sparks. But one final realization hit her as the last vehicle escaped. She was still inside, and not alone. The door ground shut, steel teeth clamping down. Tasha Bennett was trapped, in the dark, with wolves who had just lost their meal. For a beat, the silence felt unreal, like the world had forgotten to breathe. The garage door slammed shut behind the last fleeing cruiser, the sound shrieking metal against metal. Tasha rubbed her shoulder where the bumper clipped her, but pain was a luxury she didn't have time for. The escape vehicles were gone. The building was sealed. Now it was just her, and the men still hunting in the shadows. Her footsteps echoed across the garage floor as she moved, not fast enough to draw fire, not slow enough to lose momentum. She could hear them regrouping, boots scraping softly, gear shifting, whispers pressed through earpieces. They were communicating. They had orders. They were regrouping around her position. Tasha ducked behind a pillar and forced her mind still. Panic was death. Strategy was survival. First, assess. She checked her magazine, half spent. One reload left. Knife on her boot. Radio dead. Phone flickering but offline. Second, locate them. The men didn't talk loudly, but they made one fatal mistake: confidence. Their movement patterns were tight, predictable, trained but complacent. They assumed she was prey. They assumed she was cornered. Third, disrupt. Cornered animals don't fight fair. From the second-floor catwalk above the garage, a soft click echoed, one of them repositioning for a vantage point. Tasha didn't look. Looking gave away awareness. Instead, she crouched lower and crawled beneath a parked SUV, letting shadows swallow her. A pair of boots swept near the space where she'd been seconds earlier, moving with tactical rhythm. A mistake. They thought she was running, not stalking. She slid out silently near the far wheel, rose to her knees, and grabbed a discarded crowbar near a tool bench. Metal hummed with weight in her grip. Above, one attacker leaned over the railing, scanning the garage floor with a rifle. She hurled the crowbar at the fluorescent tube hanging overhead. Glass shattered with a crack, plunging the garage into deeper darkness. Chaos exploded instantly. Shouts, scrambled movement, flashlight beams slicing the dark. Too bright, too traceable. Tasha sprinted up the stairwell to the catwalk. Every step burned, but adrenaline blanketed pain. One masked figure spun toward her too late. She barreled into him, driving her shoulder square into his chest. He toppled backward over the rail, his weapon clattering away as he hit the floor below with a crash. Two more figures appeared at the opposite end of the walkway. Rifles raised. She dove behind a wall as bullets stitched the metal plating inches from her face. She had bought seconds. Just seconds, but seconds were enough to survive. She pressed her back against the cold surface, breathing hard. They still had numbers, still had weapons, still had the upper hand. But now they knew something dangerous. She wasn't the one trapped with them. They were trapped with her. Gunfire ripped through the catwalk railing, sparks dancing like angry fireflies. Tasha stayed low, letting instinct guide what logic couldn't. This wasn't just survival anymore, it was sabotage. If she couldn't outrun the wolves, she would dismantle the pack from inside. She crawled along the grated walkway, metal vibrating beneath her palms as more rounds hammered the steel. Voices barked clipped commands below, short codes, precise phrasing, a language of trained mercenaries. She'd crossed paths with men like these during deep cover operations. They weren't freelancers. They were contracted, hired by someone powerful enough not to care about the bodies left behind. That thought fueled her. At the far end of the catwalk sat a maintenance closet marked electrical, just big enough to hide, maybe big enough to tilt the odds. She darted for it the moment fire paused, body hugging metal, breath cutting short. The masked men reacted too late. She slipped inside and slammed the door shut. Darkness swallowed her. Then dim emergency light flickered. Tasha scanned fast. Breaker panels, wire clusters, a high-voltage override module. Most lines were melted from the earlier blackout, but one panel blinked green, the emergency feed powering the lower floors. A plan formed. Not foolproof, but brutal. She ripped open the breaker housing. Sparks snapped at her fingers. She dug through tools beneath the cabinet. Pliers, insulated cutters, someone had stocked this place well. She stripped 2 lines in seconds and crossed them. The effect was immediate. Down below, the garage went black, black as a cave. No lights, no targeting lasers, no glow from exit signs. The mercenaries cursed aloud, finally breaking discipline. But blindness alone wouldn't save her. She needed misdirection. Tasha reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny object with trembling fingers, a key fob from one of the cruisers she'd used earlier. She pressed the panic button. Hoonk! 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 One car erupted in flashing hazard lights and screaming alarm. Then another. Then another. The sound bounced off every wall, confusing echo direction, masking footfall, scrambling communication. In that chaos, she shoved the door open and sprinted along the catwalk toward the stairwell. One mercenary glimpsed movement and fired blind, bullets shredding the metal railing, one grazing her sleeve, another punching an exit sign to pieces. She jumped the last 4 steps, hit concrete hard, and rolled behind a pillar. Her lungs burned, sweat streaked her face, every bone screamed to stop. But the moment she steadied her breath, she heard it, the distant rumble of engines outside. Multiple vehicles, heavy, fast, backup. Someone answered her encrypted ping after all. Reinforcements were seconds away, and the wolves realized it too. The mercenaries froze when they heard the growl of engines outside, big engines, armored engines. The kind that didn't belong to small-town police or corrupt precinct chiefs. Tasha pressed against a pillar, forcing breath into her lungs, hands still trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. Her ears picked up the faint metallic clack of rifles hesitating, men exchanging silent looks behind masked faces. They knew the clock had run out. A voice outside boomed through a megaphone, clear and commanding. "Federal agents, stand down and drop weapons." Tasha almost laughed from relief. They came. The bureau came. The garage door didn't just open. It exploded upward as a battering ram slammed through the bottom panel, steel shrieking as it tore out of its tracks. Black SUVs rolled in, lights strobing white instead of blue. Tactical units in full gear surged forward, real agents this time, with agency patches, discipline, authorization. The mercenaries tried to react. 3 spun toward the door, firing into the advancing flood of FBI TAC units. But their shots pinged off ballistic shields and armored plating. Within seconds, 2 were tackled and disarmed. The third threw down his weapon, hands up, the fight evaporating from him like steam. More units swept the building, clearing corners, securing hallways, locking down stairwells. The sound of zip cuffs snapping closed echoed like punctuation marks. Tasha rose slowly from cover. Her legs shook beneath her, but she stood anyway, refusing to let adrenaline win now. Morales, smeared with grime, uniform torn, rushed back inside with the lead tactical group and skidded to a stop when he spotted her. "Agent Bennett, you're alive, mostly," she said, voice raw but steady. 2 agents hurried over and tried ushering her toward medical response, but she lifted a hand. "Later. I need to confirm custody." One of the TAC leaders nodded. "Denton's transport was intercepted. He's federal now, not going anywhere." "Good." One head down, a nest still to expose. Morales came closer, eyes wide. "Who were those guys?" Tasha looked around at the captured mercenaries, now on their knees, masks yanked off. Men with clean haircuts, professional posture. The kind who didn't operate without clearance, or money. "Contractors," she said softly. "Private security. Someone powerful hired them to protect a system built on framing innocent people." Morales swallowed. "You going after them?" Tasha flicked her badge back into place, the metal warm from her skin. "This isn't over," she replied. "This was just the door they tried to slam on the truth. Now it's wide open." She finally let medical agents pull her aside, every step heavy, but victory settling into her bones. Tonight, justice didn't just show up. It kicked the door down.